The Super Speedway Podcast is a Dream Bigger media production. For news, photos, show notes, and information about advertising on the podcast, visit www.thesuperspeedway.com.
3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the Super Speedway.
Sucks when you start the race with broken pieces after sitting for 6 months, so there's going to be some f***ing talking when I get home. That's not acceptable. And we got beat. Only took one wonder. One time. That's all it takes. Got beat. And don't have any charity money for Samantha's and my charity for the Bundle of Joy Fund and being able to get more babies out there. But bigger problems in the world, right?
Welcome to episode 155 of the Super Speedway Podcast, recorded Friday, May 29th, 2020. I'm your host, Eric Young, and I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, James Cush. James, I don't want to poke fun at the Bundle of Joy Foundation, but you got to enjoy the Kyle Busch rant after the truck race, huh?
Yeah. And we were talking before the pod, so I nailed it. I figured that's where you were going.
Yeah.
But two, how did he spin? I don't know how he spun. I mean, that's a better spin job than we've ever done on this podcast.
It definitely is.
That's all we do is spin crap back and forth. I don't know how he pulled off being irritated, dropping an F-bomb, and then turning it into sympathy for his foundation. It's incredible.
So for those of you who missed it, the reason that Kyle didn't have an interview on TV after the truck race wasn't so much because he avoided the interview, is because he dropped the F-bomb and they didn't have time to turn the interview around.
And then he shouted at him on Twitter about them not airing the interview. I'm like, well, Kyle, you dropped the F-bomb. You can't. I mean, geez, oh man.
And again, we're not poking fun. Bundle of Joy Fund is excellent. It's a great charity. But oh my God, Kyle. But James, I told you before.
He's been on one lately, man.
Oh, he has.
The last couple of days. Today he had a good one. We were texting about his Twitter sarcasm again today.
Well,
so.
I'll tell you what, his tweet today is not wrong though. It's ridiculous.
Correct.
But
yeah.
and I was reading some stuff on Reddit about that either I don't think his comment is really saying that I'm that good that I didn't spin out. His comment is that he didn't spin out on purpose like everyone else does.
Well, the problem is every time somebody spins out on purpose with a flat tire, he's in the lead.
Right.
So when it happens to him, he doesn't want to return the favor apparently. So.
But thanks to Kyle and his rant, we did get a new soundboard item today.
We got beat.
So,
that's really good.
Can
you play that every time I go to do the fantasy update?
No, that's this one.
That one. Well, that one and the we got beat, because every week we get beat.
Yeah,
so
we do.
Yeah,
we do.
It's perfect. That's perfect.
Well, we got two races to talk about again this week, James, and that's why we're here on Friday, because we didn't run the second cup race until last night.
Yeah.
But
where do we start, man? Because
I
I have no idea how to do these two races in a row.
No, I know.
Talk about 600 what?
You did the show notes ahead of time today, and going through and seeing that we only have to pick picks for one race was like, oh my God, that's awesome.
Yeah, I feel relieved.
I mean, I like the midweek race, but I don't know about 3 races in a span of 7 days. That's not to mention a truck race and an Xfinity race in there too.
Yeah, it's been great. It's been That's been the only thing is the weekday races have both been hammered by rain. And
how did you like last night though that we were done before 11 o'clock and an hour rain delay and we got the whole race in?
I wanted to bring this up on the show today, but I know we are sticklers for keeping the 600 the way it is. But man, do I love these short little midweek races. I am such a fan. They are so easy to watch.
Well,
you don't have huge time commitment. I'd really
go one further and say that the 600 was agonizing.
Yeah, it seemed really tough. It seemed really tough to get through this year. And it's not that it's, I mean, honestly, we're both grateful that we have racing.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't want to sound
I know we're 2 weeks in and we're already bitching about how good the racing is, but
I don't want to. I really am trying not to go down that road. But compared,
this package sucks at Charlotte.
It's not.
I'll
great.
say it. It just sucks at Charlotte.
Yeah, it's not great.
Good. It's good for 5 laps, which is why the All-Star race is good with this package. And aside from that, this package sucks at Charlotte.
Yeah, you can't have a 600-mile race and not have the cars. I don't know. They're not, I don't want to say too easy to drive. I never want to say that, but that's kind of what's going on. I mean, these guys are just, they're machines. And
yeah, Jeff Gordon says during the race last night, he doesn't understand how they're racing like this and not spinning out because, Jeff, they have so much downforce they can't.
I know. I know. And, the 600-mile race, that was a thing when we used to have some attrition, and there's just not. These cars are so good. Mm-hmm. They're not. Even the midfield and back of the pack guys aren't having those mechanical type issues as much as they used to anymore. So
you know how you make so you get some attrition in the 600? You change the front suspension rule so they can't coil bind the springs, and then Kyle Busch has suspension issues and can't catch Chase Elliott.
Well, Denny Hamlin tried to. Well, that's a good one. Yeah, Denny Hamlin tried to make it interesting with dropping weight. So
yeah,
I mean that was another good. A good test for the 600, but other than that,
I will say I've been hit and miss with Brian Keselowski on Twitter over the years, but Brian's had a couple of great threads this week talking about the parts of cars and taking pictures of parts of cars to show what these issues are. So he explained the Kyle Busch shock issue, and he had a great thread on the ballast in the cars and how all that works. Because I mean, you and I have never looked on. I mean, we don't. We know what people have said, but that's it. It's what they talk about on the.
Yeah, I've only ever been around a super late model,
right?
Closely for a considerable period of time, and I was also 10 years old, so right. I don't. It's been a while.
See, and as much as I've been around racing, and as much as I've been in the pits, I've not been anywhere near the mechanical side of it.
Yeah,
not a bit.
Yep.
So
that's great. That's great information, though.
Yeah,
that's good. I'm gonna give him an extra look over the next couple of weeks on his account. Maybe give him a follow. I don't know if I'm following him or not. I probably am, but
I don't know if I was either. I am now, but I can't remember. I think I saw a retweet from somebody.
Shout out to the brother of the 600 winner.
Yeah,
Brian Keselowski.
Yeah. Hey, Brian Keselowski was a big story the year I went down to the Daytona 500 because
man. Yeah,
Brad pushed him in.
The 2011 push, yeah.
I was on a plane as he got pushed into the 500 by Brad in the duel.
Heck yeah.
So, all right. Well, we got some races to talk about. We got a 600 mile to start things out. Coca-Cola 600 last Sunday. Brad Keselowski gets a major win.
Yeah. His third major.
Yep.
Yeah. Man, Brad. Brad's one of those guys, like, we know he's great.
Yeah.
And I feel like we forget about him, don't you think? Like,
yes.
He's not like.
He's underrated. He's underrated. He's an underrated driver.
Yeah, he's been flying under the radar a lot.
He shouldn't be underrated, but he is.
Well, the thing with Brad, I think, too, is he's not like the greatest driver at anything, except for, I think, under the restrictor plate days, he was the best. But he's not like Kyle Busch or any of these other guys where he's flashy with anything. But man, he figures out ways to. He's racked up a ton of wins, a championship, and now he's a Daytona 500 away from grabbing four majors.
Well, when he's in that 48 car, he's not going to be underrated anymore.
Yeah, he played that off a little bit in the press conference, didn't he? That was interesting. Yeah. He's definitely. I wonder if we're going to see. With COVID and everything, if we're going to see everybody kind of hold pat now.
I would be not surprised a bit that everything we end up with another Alex Bowman situation in the 48, somebody that we weren't expecting that we don't feel is fit for that ride, and everybody else stands pat. I wouldn't be surprised.
Wonder if you could poach Tyler Reddick. I'm already starting to speculate on that one.
Tell you what,
he's been so good. But Brad. So it wasn't Brad's race to win. It was, I guess, Chase Elliott's race to lose.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and I'll even go one further. It wasn't Chase Elliott's race to lose. It was Alan Gustafson's race to lose.
That's true. Yes, exactly. Yeah, and I think that's what we put in the notes, too, was Gustafson kind of coughed it up.
Can you blow a call worse than that? I mean, I get everybody's going to do the opposite of what you do as the leader. But Joey Logano already proved earlier in the race that you didn't need to pit.
Just keep the track position.
Yeah.
I don't know what he was thinking there. Yeah. And I saw a lot of Twitter noise coming at Alan Gustafson, and all I wanted to say was just remember how many races Chase Elliott blew when he was first coming up there. I mean, we had episodes about it where we remember before he started winning, like Chase can't close. Chase can't close.
Yep.
So it goes both ways. Alan Gustafson is a really good crew
Gustafson's a
chief.
great crew chief.
This is a great pairing. This is a great team. This team is a championship contending team.
Oh, yes. This team's going to get scary. Chase is clicking wins off now. It's going to get scary.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the second race a little bit more in depth soon, but Chase Elliott had himself a hell of a week.
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, he still managed second place finish in this race, right?
Yeah, he rallied back for a second place finish.
Technically a third place finish, but we'll get there in a second.
Yeah, he got the post race bump. So he was fine. I mean, second place, and then he had a little more success following this race. So
yeah,
he's fine. He's fine.
Yep. I guess maybe the big story. I don't know. There were big stories. That was probably. I think we've got a trio of big stories. You got that story. We'll jump to Denny Hamlin next. Denny Hamlin loses the ballast on the pace lap. Loses several laps fixing the ballast, replacing it right before the race starts or as the race is starting, essentially, and then has to deal with some suspensions as a result.
600 miles, and you're starting the race down.
Can you imagine?
That's terrible.
The only thing worse would be to have to drive a damaged car at Talladega like they used to do back in the day.
Yeah, no kidding, and just riding around for 600 miles. Oof. Yeah. Not good. That was not good.
So, as a result, crew chief Chris Gabehart, car chief Brandon Griffith, engineer Scott Simmons all suspended for the next 4 NASCAR Cup Series points events through June 10th, 2020. Joe Gibbs will not appeal the penalty. Precedent's been set for these. When you lose ballast, it's a huge penalty.
Yeah, you're done.
It's a big, heavy piece.
And what are you going to argue? It's laying on the track.
Exactly. And there was an Xfinity driver, I don't have the name in front of me, but had one come through a windshield during practice once. And it came through the windshield. It could kill somebody. This is a penalty that needs to happen. I'm fully in support of the penalty. And
they're lucky it's not worse at this point if it keeps happening. I'm surprised that this keeps happening.
Yeah.
I don't understand it, but.
So there you go. Brian Keselowski explained it pretty well. There's only one way to put the ballast into the frame rails, and it's through the back. So if it comes loose, it's coming out the back. You know?
Gosh, yeah. There's got to be a better way for us to do this.
There is. You don't put all the weight in the low part of the car, but then the car's not as fast.
Exactly. Oh, you want to be fast. And the Gibbs cars don't seem to be as fast as they were in the past, but they're still fast.
Left side, lower frame rails. That's where you put that ballast. As much weight as you can get down there as possible.
Yep.
And then the third tentpole big story of the weekend was Jimmy Johnson's excellent run up to a second place finish, and then failing post race inspection, DQ'd, sent to the back of the field, loses.
E4.
I'm telling you, man, fantasy. I'm done with Jimmy. He's blown me out of the water 2 weeks in a 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah, I had him too. Yeah.
It's like, dude, I didn't pick him for the 500K.
We were sitting pretty. I know we liked him. We were happy. Yeah, we were happy.
You want to talk about a team that can't finish right now?
Yeah, he's got. I don't know. It's weird. That one's not on him, obviously. But
from the sounds of things, it's not even on the team. NASCAR kind of came out and said that they didn't think it was an intentional thing. It didn't pass inspection, so you got to penalize them.
And especially when you're in second place, it's a little bit more scrutinized. It's not like he finished 20th with it. So
yeah.
But some good signs from Jimmy though. Outside of the disqualification, he's definitely improving from where he's been. I mean that team was way down in the hole. So if they can take any silver lining away, they're much better than they've been. So
I still think that's a lot. The car though, I mean,
yeah, the cars are better. The Chevys at Hendrick are really good, and they've got Bowman and Chase Elliott are legit championship contenders right now. So
right, Jimmy was the focus the last couple of years when Chevy was struggling because who else are you going to focus on? You got Byron, who's a young driver. You got Chase, who's still a young driver. You got Bowman, who nobody was expecting anything out of. You got Kurt Busch, who was went to a lower funded team. Kyle Larson was at the lower funded. I mean, comparatively,
Larson was the banner carrier there for a while,
right?
But
really,
gone, so.
Really, Jimmy was, and so. Yep. That's who got the focus when Chevrolet was struggling. And so now that Chevy's clicking, now we're like, oh my God, Chase Elliott's doing really well. He's getting better. Alex Bowman's doing better. No, they're not. The cars are.
Exactly, and William Byron's noticeably good too. They're having
Yeah.
other issues with finishing races,
Yes,
but
they are.
I mean, it's there. You can see it. Like you can see it. So, yeah, the Chevys those Hendrick Chevys are no joke, man. They are for real.
Yep.
I mean, heck, Bowman won the first 2 stages of the 600. I mean, he led how many laps? Did he lead 164 laps?
Yeah.
He led the most laps in the race. So,
Yeah, I believe he
Yeah, I
led
mean-
more laps in the 600 than the combined laps anybody else has led the rest of the season. I believe was the
Yeah.
stat they said on Fox.
Yep. Yeah, and he was in the 3rd stage because the 600 is a 4-stager, so he was second in that stage too. So yeah, he had some issues late that cost him a ton of track position, but he got out of there with 47 points,
Yeah.
which I think that's 4th in the race, fifth in the race in points
Yeah.
total. It's total, and that's with the 19th place finish. So yeah, he's doing fine.
Yeah, no problem there. And we
Yep.
talked last week. I think we talked last week on here that we think he's
We
a
did,
title
yeah.
contender. So,
Oh yeah, Yep, absolutely.
and you mentioned Chase. Chase is definitely a title contender too. Speaking of which, let's talk about the Alsco Uniforms 500 from Charlotte Motor Speedway. Everywhere I've seen the 500, I've put the little K behind it because I think the K
It is K,
what makes it good. Nice 312 miler at Charlotte. And
Beautiful.
yeah, I mean, we had a rain delay in the middle of it, which sucked. But I'll tell you what, man, this is the sweet spot right here. This
Yeah,
is the
that's
sweet
what this-
spot for a cup race.
Yep.
Let's do more of
Right there.
these. Let's do a 300 miler at Michigan. I'm telling you, man. Much
We're
better
there.
race.
We're there. If we're going to be doing double headers and things of this nature, we're there. We're at the point where I'm okay with all these shorter races.
Yep.
The Xfinity Series should stay at 200. Truck Series maybe at 150, and there you go.
I'm
Done.
all right with the Xfinity Series. They run a couple 250s. They run a couple 300s. The 300s are usually at a place like Talladega or Daytona where we're running a 500 miler for the cup cars. And I'm still in favor of, I'm still in favor of the Daytona 500. I still say let's take the Talladega race and cut it down to 4. Maybe not less than that, but 500 they just ride around at those things. It's just, I don't know. We don't need that much racing.
Sure.
And especially after that 600, man, freaking all afternoon sitting here watching that dang race. Holy crap.
Yeah, it felt like a long one, huh?
Yeah, it was definitely long. So Chase Elliott gets the win on the Alsco 500.
The bounce back win, yeah.
Bounce back win, and did it right after the Truck Series win against Kyle. We've got that as our first news item. We'll jump into that. Maybe we'll combine it with this. But one thing we were talking a little bit about, we've had plenty of discussions about personality here on this podcast, and we were chatting a little bit today before we recorded that Chase is starting to show his a little bit. It's starting to come out.
Growing up in front of our eyes a little bit, which is nice to see.
Even as a Kyle Busch fan, the best thing that I saw was that bow after the Truck Series win, after he won the bounty in the Truck Series, takes the Kyle Busch bow at the start finish line. You could tell he was a little uncomfortable. He wasn't sure if he should do it or not, but and it completely caught Fox off guard because they don't have a good shot of it. But it was great. It was good stuff.
Well, and he's aging into himself a little bit too. He's no longer the young buck. I mean, when Johnson retires, he's lead dog at Hendrick, and he could be the lead dog at Hendrick for 18, 20 years. However long he wants to drive. So he's going to be the A1 guy for that team, and being a legit contender and having good race cars underneath him and having races get away from him. Yeah, he's. I don't mind a guy being a little chesty and doing some things.
No,
I mean, that's good. I love to see that stuff. And Chase Elliott since Darlington, finally is showing some of that flair, which makes, feeding into the rivalry a little bit, which is what you want. I mean, you want the White Knight to go up against the, the Black Knight, the Darth Vader character, which is Kyle Busch.
Yeah,
we need a hero.
The only disappointment that I had in the whole deal was that he kind of apologized for it in the post race. He was
They're being nice to each other.
Yeah,
they are being nice to each other.
I don't
Kyle's
want them to
been
be nice to each other.
Kyle's been nice to him in the post media or the post race stuff. Any media he's been doing, he's been saying.
He did say after when they asked him about the bow in the Truck Series post race, I didn't know about that. That's cute, he says. It's like
Well, if you're Kyle Busch, he's at that point, in his career too, where he's the man. He's the
Yeah.
best. We can all recognize he's a A1 guy in the series. He's the
Yep.
big dog. But these young bucks are starting to nip at him a little bit. And you got a guy like Chase coming with fast race cars. Chase Elliott could win 8 races in a season, like Kyle
Yeah.
Busch has done in the past.
Hey, I talked
he
about
did.
this in our chat this week, and maybe some will agree, some won't. But this feels like a Dale Earnhardt, Jeff Gordon rivalry right here. That's what this feels like to me. This is the exact same thing. This is what we need in this sport: is a rivalry between the clean-cut good guy and the bad boy. Other than the fact that Kyle's way less cool than Dale Earnhardt was.
to put you on the spot just a little bit.
Yeah.
Are you saying you want a little bit of a 90s a little bit of the 90s throwback on that?
Yes, James. Yes. I want the
Yes.
personalities of the 90s.
Perfect. Good. That's all I needed to hear.
No, we could use a really good rivalry like this. We've had some hints of it in the past with drivers. And the thing is, guys, is we don't need an angry rivalry. We don't need, Kyle and Brad when they were mad at each other. Dale and Jeff were friends. Dale and Rusty were friends
together. They
Yeah.
were in business together. Dale and Jeff made more money off that rivalry than I think a lot of people think about.
Right, exactly. I mean, they played that sucker up, and Jeff
Jeff
doesn't talk about it, but Jeff was in on it, and that was a whole plan between those two. Yes, they wanted to beat each other, but they knew what they were doing.
You need a competitive rivalry, and you need a fan base that rallies behind their guy. And Chase Elliott has some staunch fans.
Well, and so does Kyle. Kyle's got the Rowdy Nation is strong, and there's a lot of people that hate him, and that's good enough.
Exactly what you need. And the people who don't like him can lean on Chase Elliott to go after. Yep.
But Chase has got the good story. He's got they've got the siren out in Dawsonville, and everybody loves to see him get the win. So
when we were chatting earlier today, I remember we had said something about that good old boy type feeling and that Dawsonville heritage. That's that Dale Earnhardt Jr. type of thing that Chase Elliott can bring. That people gravitate towards the lineage, the history.
You've got Bill Elliott, you've got Jeff Gordon, and you've got Dale Earnhardt Jr. all packaged into one guy right now.
Pretty much. I mean, yeah. Yep.
I mean, not to put a lot of weight on Chase's shoulders, but here's your savior of NASCAR right now.
If he can pull it off, man, yeah.
He's doing something that Earnhardt wasn't doing, and that's getting in victory lane. That'll help as the most popular driver.
We need Chase Elliott, and I'm not kidding about this. We need him to win like 7 races straight right now when there's nothing going on.
Yeah.
You got people watching.
I don't know, though.
Do
you want him to win too much too quick? Because then people start
to
hate him.
We need him to set the world on fire with performance.
I think we need him to battle Kyle. I think we need him to win just a couple races more than Kyle.
Well, think about it though. He go back to Darlington.
Right.
That starts it off.
Yep.
Now he's bounced back. It's the storyline is there. Now if he can go into Bristol and they go at it again, Kyle needs to be there. Yeah, absolutely.
I'll tell you what, Kyle's really good at Bristol, and Chase is, I think, got the best average finish at Bristol.
So maybe.
Yeah,
he does. And right now, David Smith has that 9 car, fastest car in the series. So he'll be there.
Chase has been excellent this season. So
yeah, fastest car, best performance. I think obviously best performance over the last couple of weeks. I mean, he was right there for Darlington. He legit could have 3 wins in a row.
Right. But if you really want a competition, James, cut down the left rear tire on both him and Kyle. Yeah. See who can keep the car from spinning out. That's the real test.
You know what's great, and it's hard to remember this because we had such a long layoff, but there was a moment where Ryan Blaney could have been 4 for 4, and Chase Elliott could have won 3 straight now, and those are that's the future here and now. They're here, there and now. So I love seeing the performance from our current. I'll call them our current generation, but they're the next generation. But I love it.
Yeah,
I love seeing it.
And then you've got other guys. You've got Matt DiBenedetto that's showing promise. You've got,
Byron's there.
Yeah,
I think Byron's there.
I think he is too. We talked last week about John Hunter coming in a rookie year in an underfunded car and coming out, and I mean there's some talent here. We got some We got
There's
some
some good
exciting
stuff.
stuff coming. Yeah.
Yeah, we got some good stuff brewing. Bell had a great run in the 600.
Yes,
You
about
know,
time.
so our young guys are there. You know, it makes me bummed out about the Larson thing that much more
Yeah.
because he should be here right now, and he screwed that all up, which really sucks. But you know, we've got guys who can fill that void right now. So
Yeah, we do.
here or there, here or there. Yep.
He needs to get working on coming back because the memory's gonna get swallowed up pretty quick with what we got right
We're
now.
gonna talk about him in a minute. We're gonna talk about he's doing his best. We're gonna talk about him in a minute. But yeah, Chase, I was skeptical of Chase, and I think I talked about this last week. I was a little skeptical of Chase early on in his career, but he's definitely, he's the real deal, man. He's good.
You can't.
He doesn't have to prove anything to me. He's already done it. So
You can't base somebody's talent off of what their dad did. Kyle Petty. But
Dale Jr.
Yeah, true. Chase, I kind of felt like Chase had it. I saw stuff in the truck series and in the smaller series that kind of led me to believe that we had something special coming up. And is he going to be the best driver in the world? No, not necessarily, but he's going to be good enough to come out there and win some races.
5 years from now, he may not be the best driver on his team with the development of William Byron. At some point when he starts to break through, he's going to get there too. So,
but Chase Elliott,
it's going to be great.
Chase Elliott's an eventual championship winner, I think.
Oh yeah, he's one of those guys. Yep,
he's going to win a cup championship. He might win one, and that's it. But he's going to win one.
He'll find his way. Yeah, absolutely. You know, he's come along faster. You think about how long it took Joey Logano to come in,
right?
And how great he is now. And Chase Elliott, he had a couple of years that were pretty tough, but he's, now he's a perennial race winner. Every year he's going to win races, and he's set.
He's been able to put together pretty good seasons. It's just
good sponsors.
Exactly. There's just always something in the end that kind of just doesn't go right for him. And once he gets that fixed, he's going to be right there contending for the title in that Final Four at the end of the season.
And he can win anywhere. I mean, he's won the dang Roval.
Yeah.
Watkins. He's a well-rounded driver with a well-rounded team, and they're going to be tough.
Yep. Before we move on to news, let's just chat a little bit about both of these races here. There's a couple people I wanted to point out. Back to the 600, Clint Boyer finishes 39th. Hell of a hit for Clint. Had I think something broke in the front end is what happened, and he hit the wall. Is that what it was, or do you have a
I think that's what happened. Yeah.
Yep. So that was a rough hit, but he was entertaining on the broadcast the next night and talking about it. Clint's always entertaining. Let's see. Anything else from the 600 really jump out at me?
Bubba Wallace had the same part break on the same lap in both races.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah. He went out with a vibration on 164 in the 600, and then on lap 165, the next race, he crashed. Same failure.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
There. Christopher Bell got a top 10 in the 600. Finished 21st in the 300. Yeah, Tyler Reddick.
I cannot stop singing Tyler Reddick's praises, man. I am so floored with how good he's been.
Yeah.
We sung his praises last week, but dang, dude, he keeps showing up. It's incredible.
Yeah. Denny Hamlin managed to finish only 2 laps down in 29th in the 600 after having his terrible start. Let's see anything on the.
And he finished second in the next race.
Yep, second last night.
Stenhouse Jr. second.
Yeah, that's the one I wanted to mention. Stenhouse finished 4th. Had a great race all day. I was waiting for him to stuff it, but he didn't. He managed to keep it together.
He did, yeah.
And I mean, he did try to wreck it 4 wide on the backstretch. Cost Kyle, but he did all right. So.
Yeah, I mean that's why you bring him in. He's, crash all he wants, but he has flashes of a good driver. I mean, he can drive.
Right.
He makes knucklehead mistakes sometimes.
He's like Danica Patrick, except he's a good driver.
Maybe that rubbed off on him when he was.
It could have.
Yeah.
All right.
Interesting.
Anything else with these 2 races to talk about? I feel like we had 900 miles of cup racing. We should have way more to talk about, but I don't really. It was Charlotte. It wasn't really that eventful, to be honest.
Yeah, it wasn't eventful, but the racing. I thought the racing was good overall. I mean,
Yeah.
we've already talked about all that stuff.
You know when the racing was really good, James? The Xfinity
the end?
race.
Yeah, the Xfinity race was good. Yeah,
The Xfinity. If we can just take that Xfinity package and slap it on the Cup cars and run that at Charlotte, we'd be golden.
yeah.
Because that race was great. It was an excellent race.
Yeah, that was good. No, that was, and the trucks were excellent.
Yeah, the trucks are always pretty good. It helped that Kyle had his issues, and of course it helped in the Xfinity race too that he sped on pit road and made that interesting too.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, Matt Kenseth, kind of watching him, he's fallen back down to earth a little bit. But I think I have a theory here.
Okay.
So Darlington, a driver's track, still, even with the rules package, still the driver's track. So Kenseth does well at Darlington, but Charlotte, where you take some of that drivability out, he's back of the mid-pack.
Right.
I don't know if there's a correlation there. What do you think?
Could be.
This is what we're going to kind of see all season, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, could be.
It just wasn't a factor. But, I mean, he's got a long – I mean, gosh, I'm not expecting him to go out there top 10 every week, but –
Right.
He was a big story last week, so we're just kind of somebody I think we should keep an eye on just to see how he's doing as he progresses with that team. So
yeah, I agree. I'm definitely interested to see what he does in that car. I was kind of ho hum about him, and then I was high on him after last week. And
Kurt ran really well,
there.
so that's a good sign. I think that's a good sign for the overall team. I mean, Kurt's running well.
Yeah,
Top 10, top 5, and a top 10. So he's there, so the team can do it. It's going to take Matt a little bit, I still think, to get back up there. So
Kurt's in that golden spot in his career, though, where it's like, I mean, he's got nothing to lose. He's just there having fun. I mean, it's perfect.
Yeah, absolutely.
So all right. I think that's it for those ones. Let's talk some news.
Work
James.
for me, man. Yeah.
We talked a little bit about Chase Elliott already getting the bounty, beating Kyle. Kyle complained about it in our intro. So I don't know if there's anything else to talk about there. We kind of talked about the rivalry already. So let's talk.
We did.
Let's talk Kyle Larson. Kyle Larson back in victory lane, James.
Yeah, that was interesting, wasn't it?
Yeah, I didn't.
His comments were interesting. I
didn't see it, and actually, I don't even know what the comments were because I didn't pay any attention to it. I was trying to avoid it because I paid for the package so I could watch these races in the World Outlaws. But there's been so many freaking NASCAR races, I haven't had a chance to turn them on.
You can't get back to the Outlaws.
No.
He's gonna be running. He's gonna be running with the All-Star circuit over the next couple of weeks. I saw too. So he's running quite a bit of dirt right now. So his comments, though, I won't say he was emotional. Mm-hmm. He said some emotional type things where he's really thankful for the Outlaws for standing behind him, which I found interesting. But yes, you did put in the show notes that he says he wants a shot at NASCAR. I think that's coming. I just think he's waiting a little bit. There's no seats for him right now. And what's he going to do? Run the back of the pack?
Right, exactly. We've given our theories on this in past episodes. Clint Boyer running well would be the worst thing for Kyle Larson right now, I think.
Clint Boyer, Eric Almirola. Yep.
Yeah, either of those guys doing good would be a problem, but so far he hasn't had to worry too much about that.
Yeah, Clint's been better.
Yes, he has been better.
Yeah,
I don't want to see Clint go anywhere. The only plus to Clint going anywhere is it seems like he's leaning toward the TV route, so we should still get plenty of Clint and maybe better Clint.
He can hang out with his buddy Dave Portnoy.
Yeah,
and I can't even believe I said his name.
Wow. Yeah, I know.
Barstool, yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised to see a Mike Joy, Jeff Gordon, Clint Boyer team in the future.
That could possibly be.
Wouldn't be surprised about that at all.
He's a wild card, man. He's a wild card.
Yeah. Kyle Larson says I'm just happy to be racing race cars right now. It's been weird watching the NASCAR stuff on TV, but I also hope that I'll still be able to have another opportunity to race in Cup someday. So there you go.
Yep.
No surprise there. I really honestly thought that was going to be his ultimate goal. He wasn't. If all he cared about was dirt racing, if he didn't want to put the effort to go back into Cup, he wouldn't have been racing Cup in the first place, because he's already expressed, his interest in winning these big dirt races and going dirt racing. He certainly didn't need to be in the Cup Series, so he wants to be there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's hard not to. I mean, that's a living that's hard to pass up.
Right.
Running for those guys, running in the Cup Series. So.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I sure as heck wouldn't be cheering for somebody who's running in the Cup Series that doesn't want to be there.
Right.
I mean, because I'd like to be there. I'd do it.
It's tough,
I mean, somebody says, "Hey, here's a Cup car. You want to give it a drive?" I'd be, sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
I'll take that chance.
Yeah. It's hard to pass up.
Right. So rumor is we're going to get an announcement possibly this week on the next segment of the Cup Series schedule. We've kind of already gotten some hints on it from different track announcements and whatnot. But I wanted to run through here. So Steve Phelps talked on Sirius XM NASCAR radio this week that he expects NASCAR to allow fans in the near future. Right now, we feel good about the policies and protocols we have in place for our drivers and crews and Fox production people, anyone who's at the racetrack. We need to make sure that we have the same protocols and make sure everyone is safe from a fan standpoint. I believe we'll be back with fans sometime in the near future. That being said, we got some announcements this week about upcoming races. Pocono Raceway on June 27th and 28th, the doubleheader, will not have fans in attendance. Decision to move forward with no fans in attendance comes as Monroe County shifts into the yellow phase of Governor Tom Wolf's reopening strategy during the COVID-19 pandemic. So no fans at Pocono. And then we also heard from the Virginia governor, who said NASCAR is able to run at Martinsville on June 10th, but they can't have fans in the stands there either. So no fans at Martinsville, which we kind of already knew. And then Texas governor says pro sports can have fans in limited numbers. Republican Governor Greg Abbott revised the decision to let pro sports leagues host events without fans starting in June as part of the state's move to reopen amid the coronavirus pandemic. The new order allows stadiums to host fans up to 25% of their normal capacity. So Texas could have some fans in the seats when we go there. And IndyCar is going there first, but I believe that race will not have fans. I think that's already been announced.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I was just gonna say, I mean, I'm knocking on wood, but we've run how many races since NASCAR has been back, and we're looking good right now, right?
Yeah.
That's
one of the
positives.
It's been 2 weeks, and that's how long it takes. So we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, next week. I mean, if we get to Bristol and there's announcements, but I mean, it seems to be if people are taking the proper precautions and staying in their protective bubbles, they seem to be holding well. I guess I'm not trying to.
I wanted to say
that
that too, and I was going to use it for my shout out, but I'll say it now. I want to applaud NASCAR and everybody involved with the sport for. When you see them, they've got masks on. Do you know how difficult it is in the heat that they're working in to wear a mask? You know how different it is to run around a car carrying, 80-pound tires with you that have when you're wearing a mask and you can't breathe. And everybody's wearing them. Everybody's doing it. The drivers are, when they get out of their car, putting masks on. I know there was controversy, and I use air quotes with controversy, on after the 600 or during the rain delay when Kyle Busch was talking to somebody without his mask on. But for the most part, everybody's been excellent. Everywhere you look, everybody's got masks on. And it'd be really easy for NASCAR, and I'm not trying to be political, but there's a political shift over the mask right now, and there's one side that does wear the mask, and there's one side that doesn't wear the mask. And first of all, guys, whether you wear a mask or not shouldn't be political. It should be about health. Secondly, it would be really easy for NASCAR to go in the direction of we're not going to wear masks and we're going to be rebels, because NASCAR is built on rebels. But they aren't, and they're doing what they need to do. And I applaud NASCAR. They've done it in the past where they've avoided the political battles, and they're doing a good job of avoiding the politics of this again. And so I applaud them, applaud everybody involved. Thank you for doing the right thing, not creating controversy, and letting the story be about the race and not whether people are wearing masks or not.
Yeah, and they are just sticking to it.
Mhm.
They're not making a controversy out of it. Just like you said, man, they are just straightforward. Here's the guidelines, follow them, and we won't have any problems. And they're showing these other leagues.
Nobody's
what
bitching
to
about
do.
it.
Yep.
You know, Kyle Busch defended the mask on Twitter or in an interview this week. Yeah, it'd be really easy to just screw this one up, and they haven't. So I'm impressed.
Yep.
I'm really impressed. I was very worried with NASCAR being the first one to the table that something was going to happen. Not that I don't trust NASCAR to get something right, but sometimes, you know, I was really worried that something was gonna go wrong, and it was going to be the opposite of what we needed. And so far, everything's been good. So I applaud everybody. They're doing a great job.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, and I did see Ryan Blaney try taking a drink of water after the
It
race.
was so good.
Last night. And yeah, so we're all learning as we go.
Yeah, you know, I was telling my boys the other day about chug points, and I didn't even think about the fact that we haven't been getting the chug after the race lately. We don't get the chug anymore.
You can't do it. What do? You hold up the can, and you can't even see the smile behind the mask.
Right.
So.
Yeah, unless you're Denny.
Right.
So more came out on the Denny Hamlin story. I heard so originally Denny made the comment that he kind of blew it off and said that he had a frowny face coming, but he only got the happy face, and so that he had it in the car. But so the story is, according to Dave Moody, he ordered the smiley face and the frowny face and got 2 smiley faces. So he only had the smiley face for Darlington, and that happened to be the one he got to use. So anyway, I just thought that was funny.
That's really good. Yeah, that's really good. It's so ridiculous.
It is. It was, you know, and it's funny because it's not something you expect from Denny Hamlin, I guess, because I think Denny Hamlin comes across as pretty straight-laced, but he's not. You know, I know. He's one of the fun-loving guys in the garage, and it was funny to see it. So, and obviously we're still talking about it 2 weeks later. So,
right.
All right. We got pit stall selection and lineup procedures announced for the upcoming races as my dog barks in the background. So Bristol, basically, let's put it this way. Basically what we're doing is we're going back to the random draw based on owners' points. I don't think we have an invert at all going forward.
And Brad Keselowski got the pole, by the way, just in regards to selections as we're going through.
Nice.
So, yeah.
The only difference is Talladega will have a practice session, and that's likely because of the new aero package. A lot of people speculated so the teams can get a handle on it. I think it's so NASCAR can decide whether the aero package is enough to do what they want it to do and whether they need to make additional adjustments. So that's it, right?
There you go.
That's pretty much the story.
That's pretty much the story.
All right. Got word today or recently that Matt Tifft, if you remember Matt, he was kind of in the prime of his career coming up and had a brain tumor and had to leave to have brain surgery, came back, was making his return, and then left recently because he's been having seizures and issues. He's going to undergo additional testing. Still not really a whole lot of word on what's going on there, but he's still doing well. Just still trying to figure it out, and it's a bummer because Matt had a lot of potential, and it's sometimes it's sad when real life gets in the way of some of these things, and you get guys that have an injury or have something that medically that just prevents them from getting to do what it is that we all want to see him do. So
yeah, exactly.
But bummer for him.
Yeah, he ran. Basically, he ran full time in Cup last year until he had to get out of the car. He ran for Bob Jenkins in the 36 car. So he's got some recent Cup Series experience, but mostly he ran a lot of Xfinity.
Right.
And over the last few years for Joe Gibbs and Richard Childress.
Did he get a win in the Xfinity Series?
He does not have a win to his credit. He racked up a bunch of top tens though.
Yeah, he had some good runs, I remember.
Yeah, he finished 7th and 6th in the points in 2017 and 2018 respectively. So
he was running for Gibbs when he had to leave the first time, I believe, wasn't he?
Yeah, in 2016 he had to get out of the car, and he was with Gibbs then. 2017 he came back, he ran with Gibbs, and he did not run he did run a full season in 17, and then went over to Richard Childress to run.
That's right. Yep.
So yeah, he had to get out of the car when he was running with Gibbs for a little while.
Okay. So we go to Bristol Motor Speedway this weekend. We were supposed to have an Xfinity race Saturday night, or Saturday, but that race has been pushed to Monday thanks to the Cup race being delayed until last night. You gotta love this stuff.
Yeah,
Mother Nature just sucks.
Fluid, man.
So
it's fluid.
Basically, what it comes down to is a TV needs more time to be able to switch their stuff from one track to the other, especially with the COVID stuff. So TV wasn't able to get it in place in time for Saturday, so we moved to Monday. And we've got word that Kyle and Kurt Busch will help call Monday's Xfinity race at Bristol, which I think that's going to be pretty interesting. We don't get to see a lot of Kyle and Kurt together, so that'll be kind of fun. And, I mean, you're talking two of the best drivers at Bristol that are going to commentate on this race. So
of all time, not recently, all time.
Yeah.
All time, yeah.
So there'll be a lot of insight there, I think. That'll be a pretty cool deal. It'll be worth tuning into.
Yep, absolutely.
So, anything else in the news that I missed, James? Anything break other than the qualifying? Well, not qualifying, but picks.
Nope. I think that's it. I think that's the most of it, man. We've news has been late because we've been freaking racing.
You can't make news when you're on the track every night.
I rather talk about racing stuff and drivers than news, so that's totally fine with me. I love the recap talk, so I'm good there.
Right, and fortunately, we're going to Bristol this weekend, so that should hopefully be a little bit more exciting than talking about Charlotte. But thank God we didn't have an all-star race in there too. Can you imagine having to do 3 Cup races in 1 week? Speaking of which, what's up with the all-star race?
Who knows? Yeah, I don't know.
Are we gonna
they
run
said
it
they want to
else?
run it.
Yeah,
they said they want to run it. I hope they do.
I mean, I don't think do they switch it to the Roval and run the all-star race on the Roval?
Maybe you do it. Yeah, maybe do it a Roval weekend.
I mean, I guess you can go to Charlotte anytime. It's in your backyard, especially if you do a midweek race.
The problem with that is you're asking Cup teams to prepare another set of possibly road course cars. Maybe, I don't know. I guess if you're gonna have backups for your Roval
but
car,
they're already preparing 2 road course cars or 3 road course cars. And now they only have to do 2.
Unless you're worried about using up a backup. I don't know how that stuff completely works on the schedule.
You know what? We don't need to worry about that stuff. Nobody should worry about that stuff.
Whoever handles that, kudos to them.
Yeah.
To those people. Jeez, oh man, the logistics. Oh.
Yeah. I'll tell you, logistics. I can't imagine logistics around all this stuff. So I'm sitting here. I'm one of those people that always likes to know how things work. And they've been doing things where they've tried to keep separate teams. They've tried to keep the Xfinity teams away from the Cup teams and all this stuff. Well, we have is it Bristol this week? No, it's at the race after, whatever's after Bristol. We have a double header on the same day between the Truck Series and the Xfinity Series. So I'm like, are they going to clear the one series out before the other series moves? How are they going to work anyway? So I don't know. It's interesting. It's really interesting how they're doing this stuff. So
you know what? Now that you brought it up, the schedule. We should know. I think next week they should have a full schedule.
Is it the full schedule or just the next segment?
Or the next. I'm sorry. The next section of schedule.
You must have been sleeping when I mentioned that during the podcast tonight. So
you did. Yes, I know. I was trying to think of any news I could think of off the top of my head, but we are going to Atlanta after Bristol. I just wanted to make sure I'm looking through the schedule. I'm like, okay, did we talk about that? So yes, sorry. I do fall asleep from time to time. It's okay.
I know. Sometimes I fall asleep as I'm talking, James.
Yeah.
So, I'm tired today too. I don't know.
After Bristol, we go Atlanta, Martinsville, not out to Infineon or Sonoma. That's off the schedule, and then Homestead and Talladega.
There we go.
I believe is how it's going. So there
we go. But the most important part is we're going to Bristol this weekend.
Yes.
Hopefully minus rain. That would be nice. Let's go through our picks here, James. So Charlotte Motor Speedway, Coca-Cola 600. James picked Kyle Busch as his winner. I picked Kurt Busch. James finished 4th. I finished 7th, so James gets the point there. Dark horse, I picked John Hunter Nemechek over James's William Byron. So 16th for Nemechek, 20th for Byron. I got the point there. The Alsco Uniforms 400. I picked Kevin Harvick as my winner for some reason. And James picked Chase Elliott, which actually Harvick wasn't so bad until
No, he was good. He stumbled late.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was there. He had a shot at it.
So James picks Chase Elliott. He gets the first win bonus of the year.
Yes.
And
A
gets
2-pointer.
Yeah, 2 points there. And then dark horse, James picked William Byron. I picked Tyler Reddick. And probably, like the only bad race Tyler Reddick had. And James
Not even that bad, too.
Yeah, I know,
14.
exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm still leading on that 9-8 after 8 races.
Yeah, your 4-point lead cut to 1. So that was a much needed comeback week from my perspective.
When you're doing 2 races in a week, the swings are pretty big.
Yes. Now we can calm down here for a minute.
Yeah.
With Bristol. Yeah.
So I think, I talked about that fantasy is easier this week, I think, at Bristol because you've got guys that are good at Bristol. But I think picking one driver at Bristol is tougher. So before we do this, James, we need to have a discussion because we were talking before the podcast and we didn't come to a final decision. Matt DiBenedetto, do we call him a dark horse? Is he still a potential dark horse? He's not won a race, but he has a second place finish at Bristol.
So I think you and I came to the conclusion that anywhere but Bristol, he can still be considered a dark horse until he wins. But he's been so good at Bristol that we cannot qualify him in the dark horse category.
I have a hard time because he's in a Penske car too. I mean,
yeah, so he's coming off the
barely
board.
a dark. I mean, he's only a dark horse anywhere until he gets a win, and then he's not a dark horse anymore.
DiBenedetto and Byron are fluttering on the bubble of dark horse.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of tough for me to say that DiBenedetto can't be a dark horse, but Byron can.
He technically doesn't qualify as he does qualify as a dark horse technically, but I mean, he's been pretty dang good here. So if we have a gentleman's agreement that we're not going to take DiBenedetto. Remember, was it last year or 2 seasons ago we had a gentleman's agreement not to pick Kyle Busch or Martin Truex? Was that
I think it was the big 3. We didn't pick any of the big 3.
Yeah, we didn't pick. Yeah, we couldn't pick the big 3. We were trying to go outside the big 3. Yeah.
Right. Okay. James, you get the first pick, which I think this is rigged because I think you get the first pick all the time. But
I was just following the rules, man.
I'm pretty sure I know pretty sure I know who you're going to pick. But let's hear your pick for Bristol.
Oh man, yeah, it's gosh, it's tough. I don't know.
I hope you.
I want to go Penske.
Oh yeah, that's right. You did want to go Penske.
I do want to go Penske, but I think I'm going to lean harder on Penske on my fantasy league picks, because Kyle Busch is due, and I think I got to take this. I got to take the safe play here and take Kyle Busch.
All right, I was gonna go nuts and pick DiBenedetto as my pick.
Wow!
But I'm not going to do that. I am going to go the easy route, and I'm going to pick Chase Elliott.
That's good. Yeah. Last 3 races for Chase, a 6.3 average finish, 2 top 5s in there, 183 laps led. He is not the best over the last 3 races, though.
No, but he's hot right now.
He's hot. Yep. And the one we're leaving off the board is Kurt Busch.
Yeah.
Win and 3 top 10 finishes.
And he's in a Chevy. That's a tough one. Yeah.
Kurt's 4.0 average finish. He hasn't led a lot of laps though. Only 33. So he's really good, but got that one win. So he sneaks it in there.
The other one who'd be a really good pick this weekend is Kyle Larson. So.
Yeah. Yep. But, you can pick him into your dark horse. I'll let you pick him.
Right. I don't know. There's a couple guys in the list that probably would be he'd be a better pick.
That would be a heck of a dark horse pick, especially if somebody picked him up and and all of a sudden you had a shot at it.
That would be pretty funny. That's right. I get first dark horse pick, don't I?
Yeah.
I am going to go. I don't know. I'm gonna go John Hunter Nemechek as my dark horse.
I like that pick. I'm going off the board because he hasn't run a race in the Cup Series here. Tyler Reddick.
It's a good one. Tyler's a good pick any week.
I've been singing his praises every week. I figure I might as well start picking him in the dark horse category.
Isn't Austin good here?
Where is Austin Dillon? The last few races, not so much. He ranks 20.
Well. You know the other good one, but he's another one of those that you kind of got to question whether he's a dark horse or not, is Ricky Stenhouse. Because Stenhouse is good here, but you could certainly argue he's not a dark horse because he's won races, but he also hasn't won races anyway.
Yeah, he's won multiple races in the Cup Series, so I have a hard time putting him in the dark horse category.
I agree with that, but he could almost.
And he
slip
is
in
good
there.
at Bristol. Yeah, he
Yeah.
is. He's been our pick before
Mhm.
at Bristol.
Yeah,
and he could be good here.
He's honestly again driving a Chevy. He's a good pick for the main pick on Sunday.
Coming off a good run, and that car has run well here before with the Dinger. So
Yeah, that is true
Yeah.
as well. So
yep, that team knows how to make this happen at this track. He'll run well. I bet you he'll be a top 10.
he'll be on my fantasy team this week.
He's going to be on the roster, eh?
He'll be on the roster, yeah. Yeah, I'll just give you a glimpse. You know, the Bushes are probably going to make an appearance on there. Stenhouse will make an appearance on there. DiBenedetto will be on there. And then Chase will probably be on the bench or swapped out with someone like Harvick, maybe. That's kind of my thought.
Right. I like
Although
that.
Hamlin's got 2 wins here.
Hamlin's good there,
But
yep.
I don't know. You just can't. I can't pick the Toyotas right now. You got to pick Kyle because it's Kyle and it's Bristol.
Yeah, you got to pick Kyle because of Kyle. And I really like any of the Penske guys. Put him in a hat. I'll take any of them.
Yeah, Joey's got 2 wins here.
And he's got Paul Wolf on the box.
You know what's funny is we both talked about. I meant to talk about this earlier when we were talking about Keselowski and winning the 600. You and I both talked about the person who was going to benefit the most from the crew chief changes was Ryan Blaney.
Yeah,
and he hasn't. I mean, he's run well.
He did.
He did run great at the beginning of the season, but he doesn't have the finishes to back it up. So far, I mean,
yeah, you're right. I mean, you're right. He's not finishing. So yes, but that's. I mean, the speed's there.
Yeah,
he just needs to come through.
Yep.
Yeah, he'll break through.
Yeah, he will.
He's gonna have a big season by the time it's all said and done. He's gonna win races. He'll win multiple races this year. Him and Chase will both be, 3 wins or more, I think.
And at James' request, let's talk about the fantasy league.
Oh God!
Wait, I killed it. Hold on, let me do that again when I don't have the audio killed.
We got beat.
There we go.
We did. Kyle, we did.
Fantasy league sucked, as it always does.
Sucked.
Do you have it pulled up,
Sucked.
James?
I have it pulled up, yeah.
We don't all suck because Todd got a win last night.
Todd kicked ass, yeah, 231. And then our newbie Jay Wint, 203. He finished the second this week, and then Eric and James 7th and 8th, 143 and 141.
Wait, hold on, though. Who finished ahead of who? Both races.
You did.
Okay, just checking.
Both races. Oh yeah, I gotta look at both races. That's right.
Yeah.
So for the 600, it was Denny the Many, and then our buddy Jay Wint again finished in second.
There you go. Kick him out.
We'll lump Todd into our group because we finished 5, 6, and 7 there. I would have had some more points, and I think Todd would have probably won if Jimmy Johnson didn't get the scrub. So.
I think I would have won if Byron wouldn't have spun because I was doing so good. It was so good.
Yeah, you were doing. Yeah. You had a good lineup. Overall standings: Freight Train is in the lead with Ranger Runyon, Denny the Many, and then I am free falling into 4th. Justin 713, the KB Show. And then not too far behind, our buddy Barron Speedway hanging on, Toyota fan. And then Jay Wint, he's, the newbie in the group, but he's coming up the board. I mean, heck, he's got a chance.
There you go.
We're not counting anybody out. So there you go.
Don't forget to get your picks in for Bristol, everybody. And anybody who still wants to join, you'll still probably beat James and I. So
yeah, we're coming to you. We're coming back to you.
Yep. Hop in and see if you can beat us. Won't be hard. Shout outs. James got shout out this week.
I did not have one this week. I'm trying to think if I did. No. I thought I did. Maybe I don't. Nope, I'm good.
Okay. I will. Well, I kind of already shouted out Brian Keselowski. I'll do my weekly Dale Jr. download shout out, which James just deleted off the show notes. Thanks, James.
And put back.
So this week on Dale Jr. download, Marcus Smith was on, and there was a lot of talk about competition and the aero package and racetracks. I didn't listen to the whole podcast, but I watched the 11-minute clip or whatever that Dirty Mo Media put up on YouTube. And Marcus talked about how they've paved Texas and Kentucky. And basically they did it to where they didn't put the finish coat on the top of the asphalt. So the asphalt's rougher to start than it normally would be on a repave. And, he noted that as they do these repaves, the people that pave these tracks, the NASCAR track or racetracks are the only things you pave like this. Like when you pave a road, your goal is to make that road as smooth as possible. You want it to be perfect, and you want it to last as long as it can. Well, a racetrack's not like that necessarily. You want flaws in the racetrack. You want issues in the racetrack. That's what makes the racing good. And so they've been experimenting in SMI and different things. They, like I said, they did Texas and Kentucky that way. Marcus said they've got some notes from those repaves that with the next track they repave, and he didn't say Atlanta, but I'm sure it's going to be, that they'll look at those things to add to that new repave and try that out. And it's kind of a big experimental thing along the way, and not necessarily paving these tracks to last forever like we've done in the past. They're more trying to get good racing out of them. So.
That's really great, and you got to think like these paving companies want their best to be shown, but you're right. I mean, we have to design these tracks with failure in mind.
Yep.
You want to see, tires wearing out and tracks being hard to drive, bumpy surfaces. Yeah, absolutely. I like that.
Yep. So it was very
Unless
insightful.
PJ1.
Again, great discussions on the show always. So it's worth checking out. If you're not listening to any podcasts or you're looking for a good NASCAR podcast, Dale Jr. Download doesn't disappoint usually. And also obviously, ours, try to listen to ours as well. Oh, one more shout out. I'll give a real quick shout out to, Lap Traffic Podcast, friend of the show. Brandon Crowd, the host there. He was on the, 100,000 Cameras broadcast. I had a small clip from his show on there, so that's pretty cool for him to be featured on Fox a couple times this week. So, congrats to Brandon. Yeah. And again, another podcast. You guys are looking for a good one to listen to. Listen to Lap Traffic Podcast. Brandon's a good guy. Got to interact with him at a couple of tracks last couple seasons. And,
he was on the show.
Yep. He was on the show. We got an interview with him, so you can check that out from last season as well. So, I guess that's it. I was checking out credentials the other day and discovered that Kentucky is still sort of scheduled for the second week of July, and SMI Credentials still has the ability to apply for credentials for that race. And I'm like, man, should I do it? I love Kentucky. It's a great track.
Should you step out of the bubble?
That's the problem, is step out of the bubble and deal with the mask and Kentucky heat in the middle of July. I don't know. I don't think I'm going to do it. I think I'm going to hold off and see how things go a little bit longer. I have a feeling they're going to extend this whole, thing as far as limiting media too. So, and I'm thinking they'll let more media in, but it's going to be guys with hard cards and people that actually matter more so than someone like me. So right. I don't really have real high expectations about getting in there. One more shout out I wanted to give though, real quick. So Racer.com had a great story. Matthew Bishop tweeted this out. And I just thought of it as I was doing this. I retweeted it. I will add it to the show notes. So there's a link there. Marshall Pruitt was the gentleman who wrote the story. And he talks about, NASCAR's limiting media members to their 4 media members at the race, but they're not allowing photographers. They're using pool photographers and are using Getty Images, and that's it. And the NASCAR media members, so the NASCAR reporters, first of all, the ones at the track aren't getting the full access anyway, but what NASCAR is giving us and everything, you can pretty much do your job. You can still make a living as a NASCAR reporter without being at the track, but as a NASCAR photographer, which most of these guys are freelance or they work for some of the teams, these guys aren't making a living right now as a result of this being blocked from the track. And it's interesting because, we're talking a 1.5 mile track that we've been on the last couple of weeks that these guys can spread out. I've been around the photographers. There's holes in the fence that you shoot through and you get cluttered around there a little bit. But for the most part, right now, all the stands are open. Everything's open. There's tons of room for them to spread out. There's absolutely no reason that they can't allow some photographers at the track. And, Marshall Pruitt writes a story about how this whole thing's going to end and we're going to be minus a lot of great photographers because they can't afford to make a living right now as they're waiting for NASCAR to lift these restrictions. And again, I applaud NASCAR for everything that they're doing, but I would love to see them make an effort to get some more of these photographers to the track. And the other thing is that all these other sports that are trying to decide how to do what they're going to do are using NASCAR as the benchmark. And so
Yes.
IndyCar is doing the same thing. IMSA is doing the same thing. These guys are all doing the same thing and using their own photographers, and that's it. And it's setting a really, really bad precedent in the industry, in an industry that's really, really tough. It's hard to make money as a photographer anymore. A lot harder than it used to be. And there's a very select few at these tracks. When you go in the photo room at a NASCAR track, there's 7 or 8 guys that are the photographers for the most part. And there's people like me that go in there and I carry a camera and I'm there that one weekend or whatever. But there's a select few that do all the races or do a bunch of the races, and they're the core group, and they're not being allowed to make a living right now. So, like I said, the link will be in the show notes with the shout outs. Check that out. It's a really interesting piece, and something we didn't really think about. And a lot of people are suffering as a result of this pandemic, and just another group right now that is. So
Yeah.
With that, James,
Well said.
where can they find you on social media if they want to talk to you during the week?
At James Cush on Twitter.
You can find me at TSuperspeedway on Twitter. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/thesuperspeedway. Our website is www.thesuperspeedway.com. You can find show notes, links to articles we've discussed, basically just about anything on there. You can find links to old podcasts, interviews we've done, photos, whatnot. Check it out, thesuperspeedway.com. You can find the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and SoundCloud. Wherever you found us today, we hope you subscribe and continue to listen. We got some good listens last week on the flipping the bird to Kyle Busch. So people like flipping the bird to Kyle. Not surprisingly, right? The last couple really good ones that we've had, the ones that have gotten a lot of listens, has had Kyle in the name of the show. So maybe I'm going to start doing that every week. It's just going to be the NASCAR Kyle Busch podcast.
That's fine.
Might do
Whatever
the
it
trick.
takes, man.
If you want to become a part of the show and help us out, you can become a patron at patreon.com/thesuperspeedway. There was one other thing I was going to ask before we stop the podcast, and I don't remember what the heck it was. James, when the heck are we racing this week? I didn't even look at. So the Cup Series race is on Sunday. And
Sunday, yeah.
The Xfinity Series is on Monday. There is not a Truck Series race at Bristol. So I think we race 2 races on Saturday and for the Cup or the Truck and Xfinity, and then we have the Cup race on Sunday the following week at Atlanta. Am I correct on that?
That's correct. Yeah. So we're Sunday. Yep, Sunday at 3:30, Food City presents the Supermarket Heroes 500, and then we go to the Folds of Honor Quick Trip 500 in Atlanta for the Cup Series.
So I just wanted to clarify because we'll probably be back on our normal day next week. We'll probably
we're probably trying to get back to normal with one race a weekend for the Cup Series.
Yeah,
so
until we get Martinsville on Wednesday night, we'll be back on Wednesdays recording again. So.
Yeah, and I'm looking at the Xfinity schedule here. Just a second. Yeah, they race on Monday, and then they go back to Atlanta on Saturday.
Yeah, I think Saturday's a doubleheader with the trucks and the Xfinity cars at Atlanta.
Truck Series does not race again until Atlanta, June 6th.
There you go.
They off the schedule this weekend. And then they got a nice little run. They're going to be racing 3 times in June. So they go Atlanta, Homestead, and Pocono.
Cool.
That's good.
All right. So we'll be back next week. We'll talk about Bristol. We will talk about hopefully the next segment of the schedule and what we can expect going forward, and continue on this race and hopefully get some fans in the stands soon. And we'll talk about how Kyle Busch does this week.
We got beat.
Yeah, that's good, Kyle.
Am I a positive person?
There we go. All right, everybody. We'll be back next week to discuss it all and chat with you again. And until then, everybody, let's go racing.